So in this video, we're going to dive into Phase 1. And as I had mentioned in the previous video, during Phase 1, students who are basically new to concurrent enrollment, never taken a concurrent class before, are introduced to key concepts on how to be successful in their very first concurrent enrollment class. And then also they're introduced to the importance of academic planning or taking classes with a goal or with a purpose in mind. So during Phase 1, the counselor role is to deliver or to partner with the concurrent enrollment coordinator to deliver information provided in the concurrent enrollment orientation PowerPoint template to all new students and their parents. Now, I want to point out the italicized text there that says, or partner with a CE coordinator. So this is not necessarily the counselor's responsibility, but a joint partnership between the counselor, the coordinator, and even the concurrent enrollment advisor. As you can see at the bottom, it says that this can be done in large groups, small groups, or individually. We've designed the PowerPoint template to be flexible so that you can adapt it to whatever style works best for you and your coordinator and the school. So it may make sense that you as the counselor deliver it when you're talking to the English students during their 11th grade year. A lot of counselors do that. Maybe it makes sense for the coordinator to deliver that during a large parent meeting at the beginning of the year. Or maybe you decide to have the concurrent enrollment advisor at Salt Lake Community College come and present that. The other option you have is that we have a pre-recorded version as well that students could watch. And I'll show you where that is in just a second. The SLCC concurrent enrollment advisor role is to assist where needed. So maybe with any live events. They can also help answer any questions that you might have about the presentation content, and they'll come out to your high school, provide training at your high school or at district-wide trainings, and they may also work with you to gather some data so we can figure out how we can improve this and make this better and easier for you, and then also for the students. So let me now show you some of the tools that are available for you as a counselor to help you in this phase of the advising process. So we're going to jump over to the concurrent enrollment website. So here on the concurrent enrollment website at slcc.edu/concurrent enrollment, you'll scroll down and you'll see a link that says counselors. This is where we've placed all of the advising resources for you as a counselor. If you scroll down on this page on the left-hand navigation, you'll see a link called Advising Resources. So click on that. And then here, you'll see all of the resources organized by phase. So Phase 1, you'll see a link to the concurrent enrollment PowerPoint template, which I just talked about. So let's click on that and download it. And I'm going to do a quick walkthrough of the content here on the template. So on the first slide, you'll see concurrent enrollment. It's all SLCC branded. You can put your high school name. One of the things you'll talk about is just briefly, what is concurrent enrollment? Because Phase 1, again, is for students who are brand new to concurrent enrollment. In the next slide, it's just a simple slide that explains concurrent enrollment is one class, but you get high school credit and college credit. We talk about how it saves you and your family money. The next slide goes through how concurrent helps you accelerate the time that it takes in order to complete your college degree. The next slide, we talk about the difference between AP and concurrent enrollment, just so students can make a more informed decision about which program is right for them. For most students, a mix of both is the best option. We then go into the requirements to participate. Now, like I said before, this template is completely flexible. So the participation requirements that are listed here are general to most high schools, but for your high school, you may have some additional requirements. So this is why it's important to consult with the concurrent enrollment coordinator to find out what are the requirements at your high school. So generally a 3.0 GPA, a good attendance record, motivation to do their best, and to keep in mind that some classes have prerequisites. So for example, English 2010 can't be taken until a student has completed English 1010 or the equivalent AP course. The next slide goes through the 3 basic steps that a student needs to do themselves. Oh, and one thing that I forgot to mention is that back here on this slide, there's a reminder that in concurrent classes, you're expected to be responsible like an adult college student, attend class, meet deadlines, and own your schedule. So when you talk about these 3 steps, it's important for the student to know that if they don't meet the deadline, then they're going to be in trouble. So the 3 steps are admission, registration, and pay tuition with some brief descriptions of what those steps are. The next one, again, we reiterate the importance of college deadlines because there are no exceptions to those deadlines. If they don't meet the registration deadline, then they're not going to be able to get concurrent enrollment credit for that class. The next slide talks a little bit about FERPA law and how that relates to concurrent enrollment. So here we go over some of the basics of FERPA law, that once they become an SLCC student, they're essentially treated as an adult, and we can't share information with the parent or any other individual without the explicit consent of the student. Next, we have a slide for options at your high school. Some high schools like to include this, so you can list all of the concurrent classes that are available at your high school if you'd like, or you can just delete these slides. Then we get into choosing courses wisely. So this is the academic planning piece of Phase 1. This certificate of completion checklist lists all of the general education courses and the different categories, and it invites the student, when they're selecting their classes, to select just one in each of these categories, and that would fulfill that requirement for general education. So at this point, they're not necessarily building their plan, but when they sit down to decide what are the best first courses for me to take, this is a great guide for helping them to decide which classes to take. So if a student was wanting to take Math 10, 30, 40, 50, and 60, they would end up accumulating classes that they don't need, because to fulfill the quantitative literacy requirement, they only need one class from this category. We'll take a more in-depth look at this in just a second. The next slide is advice from concurrent enrollment students on how to be successful in concurrent enrollment. So the next several slides in the template link to videos of student spotlights that we've created, where concurrent enrollment students have sat down with us and shared their stories, as well as some advice for other students about how they can be successful as they work through this first experience in concurrent enrollment. So you're welcome to choose any of these videos that you feel like will resonate best with your students, or you can delete these slides. Next, we've got a section for parents and guardians. So if this is a presentation that you're delivering to a large group of both parents and students, then you can include this video for parents and guardians, where we talk specifically to how can they support their student in being successful in concurrent enrollment. And then finally, we have a slide to talk about taking concurrent enrollment to the next level, which means meeting with the counselor and coming up with an academic plan. This slide reminds students that just taking one concurrent enrollment class is not the end. There's a lot more to go, and this is just the beginning of their journey. But in order to navigate that journey well, they need to move on to the next phase, which is coming up with a plan so that they can essentially get the most bang for their buck in choosing concurrent enrollment classes that will help them towards their college and career goals. Finally, we have a slide for your contact information, or whoever the contact person is there at the high school that they need to reach out to. One other thing that I'll point out here on each of these slides is that there are notes included on each slide to help you find the information you need to be knowledgeable about that topic. And also, we've included links to resources. So for example, if I come down here to the slide that talks about AP and concurrent enrollment, you'll see underneath in the notes and the resources is a link to the AP CE comparison chart, which you can hand out to students and goes into greater depth into the differences between AP and concurrent enrollment. So let's go ahead and we'll select this, copy it over into our browser, and there we have the AP CE comparison chart. And you can take this, print it out, and hand it out whenever you're doing the presentation if you would like. So we'll jump back over here to the counselor website and take a look at some of the other resources that are available for you in Phase 1. So one of those is the Certificate of Completion checklist. We'll click on this here, and this will open the checklist. You can download it, print it off. We also have a Spanish version as well that you can hand out. So let me just quickly walk you through how this checklist is organized. So here on the first page, you'll see a list of all of the general education requirements. And if they complete all of the requirements here on the first page, they will have earned their certificate of completion, which is a transferable credential here within the state of Utah that packages their generals so that they can immediately jump into the classes for their major. In the past, students used to have to complete their associate degree in order for that to be packaged, but now there's this 1-year certificate that packages those generals. This prevents a student from having to do their generals and then 32 electives that typically didn't apply towards any degree. Now I want to pause here for just a second and just say that there is nothing wrong with pursuing the associate's degree as long as the student knows, first of all, what career they would like to pursue, and we know that that might change, that's okay. And they need to know what bachelor degree they would like to pursue, and they need to make sure they meet with an SLCC academic advisor to determine which associate degree will best help them to achieve that goal. For most students, however, the General Education Certificate of Completion is going to be a great place to start. So let me walk you through how this works. So as it says up here, a student only needs to complete one class in each category, because if they take more than that, then that would cause them the problems that we talked about earlier. So for example, if a student was registered in Math 10, 30, 40, 50, and 60, they only need one of those classes to fulfill the quantitative literacy requirement. Now, depending on their major, they might need 1050 and 1060. But depending on their major, they may also only need Math 1030. One of the things that you have access to as a counselor, back here on the Advising Resources page, if you scroll down to the bottom, there are additional tools and resources, and one of those is Math Pathways. If I click on that document, that lists which math classes are best for different students depending on their area of study or area of interest. And we've also placed the Holland codes up here to help students decide which math class or classes are going to be best for them. So if a student is brand new to concurrent enrollment, they're going to look at these and decide which one class do they want to take in which category that they're most interested in, and that's where they're going to start. Now you also notice that AP classes are listed here. These are AP equivalents, which it says over here, AP alternatives available, plus the score that's required. So a student, to complete their Composition 1, could complete English 1010, or they could do AP English Language and Composition, as long as they get a score of 3 or higher. That will fulfill the Composition 1 requirement. If they take AP English Literature and Composition, then they will have fulfilled English 2010. So there are AP options. Now, if a student is working towards completing their one-year certificate, they do need to ensure, as it states here under the AP alternatives, that at least 25% of their classes need to be SLCC courses. Now, we realize too that general education is not always the best option for all students. There are some students who may not be going the traditional higher education path. For those students, a good place to start is here on the second page, exploring concurrent enrollment courses in your area of interest. So rather than just bouncing around and taking an education class, a computer science class, an automotive class, a film production class, for students who don't know if the traditional route is best for them, they can choose one of these areas they're interested in and take a class or 2 or 3 or 4. Sticking in one area of interest is less likely to do any damage down the road to federal financial aid opportunities because it's an area they're interested in, and there's a good chance that if they end up at college, that they may likely continue to pursue that area of interest. So that's a quick overview of how a student who's brand new to concurrent enrollment might consider choosing the first classes that they would like to take. Also, if they choose classes in a way we've just explained, then when they transition over to creating their academic plan in our MyCE system, they'll find that they're much farther along than if they would have randomly selected courses. So let's go over just a couple of more resources that are available to you as a counselor here in Phase 1. We talked about the AP-CE comparison chart. This is where you can download that. Also, here's a link to the Student Spotlight videos. So you can click there, it'll take you to our YouTube channel, and you can find other videos that may be useful to you as a counselor. Also, we've got a link here to the parent video in both English and Spanish. Below that, there's a Microsoft Word template that's a great resource for new students that walks them through step-by-step the things that they need to do in order to get started in concurrent enrollment. So you can check that out. And then the final thing that I'll point out is the CE Advising Checklist for high school counselors. So this is another Word document. If you open this up, this gives you a checklist of all the things that you as a counselor or the coordinator can do for students in Phase 1. All of the checkboxes here are basically items that were included in the PowerPoint presentation. So if everything in the presentation is covered either by you or by the concurrent enrollment coordinator, then you'd be able to check off all of these items for Phase 1. Now, I'd mentioned earlier that we'd actually recorded a version of this PowerPoint template that you could distribute to your students and have them go through this information that way. Let me show you where you can find that recording. So you're going to jump back over to the Counselor Advising Resources, and here in the left-hand navigation you see the Student Advising page. So if you click there and then scroll down, step 1 is to attend a CE orientation. So you'll click here, and here you'll see the pre-recorded video of the PowerPoint template that we just showed you, which here we call the Concurrent Enrollment Student Orientation. So the student can watch this video. It's about 20 minutes long. They can watch it with their parents. And then down below the video are those resources, the Certificate of Completion Checklist, the AP Comparison Chart, and then the video for parents. And those are all the tools and resources that are available to you as a high school counselor to help guide students through Phase 1 of the SLCC Concurrent Enrollment Advising Program. In the next video, we'll jump into more detail on Phase 2 and the tools and resources that are available for you there.